This is The Awkward Silence, and I'm Dr. Aron Choi. Today's guest is Jennie Lynn Laurent, who's a serial entrepreneur who started out as a registered nurse and later became a triple pro natural bodybuilding champion and fitness model. Soon after that, she traded in her starch whites and lifting straps to pursue some major business goals in life and life ventures soon after she finally met her fiance and business partner, Brian Del Maso, in 2016. Together, they became certified consultants with global thought leader Bob Proctor and quickly became his top coaches. Jennie's a public speaker, an expert high-ticket master salesperson, and she also is the author of the #1 best-selling book, Magnetic Love: Stop Chasing What You Want, Start Attracting It. And Jennie and Brian are endeavoring to empower the world through their companies, Matrix Success Network and Network Ninjas. Great to have you on, Jennie.
Thanks, Aron. Appreciate that intro. Thank you.
You have quite the resume.
Thank you.
I was trying to figure out where to start exactly. And where my curiosity went was, trying to understand the natural bodybuilding industry. And are there any misconceptions about bodybuilding and how you got into it?
Yeah, well, I think one of the misconceptions is a lot of people think, everybody does drugs. I mean, you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger and he wasn't natural. He had amazing physique, but he was, an aided athlete. But there are two types of, bodybuilding. There are some that are, people are allowed to use performance enhancing drugs. Others there are not. So the particular federation I choose was strictly natural. There was drug testing. It's kind of like you really want to separate the two so it's fair. So I didn't want to ever pollute my body. Like I grew up very health conscious. I became a nurse. I didn't want to ever do that. So for me, the natural way was the way I wanted to go. The way I got into it, it's funny because I was always, an athlete growing up, but I never got into bodybuilding in the gym, but I always did stuff like landscaping and sports. And it wasn't until after I got out of high school that somebody approached me and said, "You look like you compete." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, you look like you bodybuild or something. I said, "Oh, I thought about it, but just never crossed my mind." They're like, "Well, I have a coach. I do it. I could show you how to do it." I'm like, "Okay." And then I just said, maybe I should just try to get in the best shape of my life and just see what my body can do. I'd never really ever done something like that. So I just got a coach, made a deadline, and threw myself into it. And the first two tries were an absolute mess, and then luckily my coach didn't allow me to quit as much as I just felt maybe I wasn't for me. But on the third try, I didn't, because the first 2 times I didn't place, but the third time I won the show. So it was the big difference between strike number 2 and actually winning the third one. So don't ever give up.
So you make it sound so simple. So what was there any fear involved? Were there any doubts, or you're like, "I'm just doing it. Here's a plan and I'm going for it"? What was going through your head?
I think there was a period of time where when I first got into it, I was probably overconfident because I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And we always kind of look at ourselves and we're like, "Oh, I look great." And then when we get compared to other people, maybe who are seasoned and have been doing it longer, we start to realize where we size up and where we fall along that spectrum. So the first time I competed, I came in, it's almost like you got to get the Goldilocks effect. Because the first time I was too dialed in, the second time I was not dialed in enough, and the third time I got it just right. So I needed both of the extremes with my body to learn, how I responded to the prep phase, of losing the weight and bringing out the muscles. And then there's posing involved, and some you're walking in high heels, some you're not. So there's a lot, and it involves a lot of discipline too, because, you're saying no to all your favorite foods. You're on a strict diet for months on end. You're exercising, and it really is a lifestyle. But I would say for me is, I had seen the movie The Secret, and I was really trying to use the law of attraction, just picture myself on stage, keep my eye on the prize. And I had ironclad willpower and discipline. I would not cheat. I would not miss the gym. I said, this is the difference between first and second place. So for me, I was always committed every time, but there was, again, a big difference between the second time that I didn't even place. And then I really said, okay, I need to lose 10 more pounds, and I'm going to practice this much more every day. And this is my show. I'm going to win this. And I owned it, and it wasn't really so surprising when I did win, because I almost knew that I had it, because when you kind of end in the center, the person in the center is right in front of the judges. And I just knew I had it, and it was a really good feeling. So I would say subconsciously, I didn't really allow doubts and fears to enter my mind because I was so hungry. And I was so laser focused that that's really, again, unconsciously confident. I was doing what I now teach. And now I understand how I became a pro, is I built the image in my mind and I was 100% committed and I didn't quit. So that's how it happened.
Yeah, I want to definitely jump into the law of attraction because
Cool.
it's something I've been exposed to and I'm trying to understand. And now you work with people with that. You mentioned that you were an ugly duckling turned a beauty queen. Mm-hmm. What's the story behind that?
Yeah, so it's funny because most people that see me now, I mean, I'm 30 years old, but when I was younger, like I was always like the tomboy. Like I wished I was a boy. I just didn't want any part of, being a female. I really grew up with a younger brother and an older sister. And I, at first, took to more what my sister was doing, like playing with dolls, listening to certain music and going out. And then I just said, I'd rather ride dirt bikes and, go play sports and beat people up or something. And just, like I said, I started landscaping at a young age with my uncle's company. So I was never the pretty girl, the popular girl. I was very shy, very introverted, not very confident, didn't get asked to school dances. You wouldn't think that though, but it's like I became very shy and withdrawn when I was going through like adolescence. But there was always a dream that I had to become like a model, like the pretty girl, like the popular girl, not like the cliquey kind, but just somebody that had self-worth and confidence in that I like beautiful, like that's every girl's dream. And I just said, and then it's funny because when somebody, mentioned to me about this whole thing about competitions, there's not just like bodybuilding, like for muscle and size and everybody's ripped and huge. There's like, there's a bikini category, then there's a figure, then there's a physique, and then there's bodybuilding. And as you go up from, bikini to bodybuilding, you get bigger and more lean, less fat. So when I got into it, I said, well, maybe this is a way that I can, go pro and become a model and get on magazines and just, do what I always really wanted to do. And I really wasn't sure why I wanted to do that, but just maybe, again, just craving to have something that I didn't have because I felt like I needed that to prove my worth. Like I needed outside recognition and achievement or something. But I guess really what I know now, what my book is about, is I didn't really love myself. I didn't know who I was. And because I wasn't the pretty girl and the one that, always had guys knocking down her door, I didn't feel worthy and I struggled in relationships. So when I say, ugly duckling turned beauty queen is like, I went through that phase, late blossom or be it all, but that's really what was the turning point in my life is when I first did my first competition, I did like a photo shoot and I said, I've done that dream. It's here. This is me. And I was so proud of those pictures. I said, I don't even need to step on stage again. But then part of me, being very competitive, I really wanted to get back on stage because my first experience was really bad. Like I went into major health issues because of it. I didn't place, so I was very discouraged. But like I said, I didn't let that keep me down. But that was, like I said, it's almost like the caterpillar to the butterfly, that transformation where you just kind of, the process of struggling to become that beautiful butterfly and realize who you really were meant to be. And that phase of being in the cocoon was necessary. Being the ugly duckling didn't make me like just a very conceited, arrogant woman that, again, always had guys chasing her and just thinking I'm all that. It really kind of humbled me and I had to earn who I became and I worked hard for it. And it obviously did worlds for me in my confidence level when I started to see that what I was truly capable of. I kind of really came out of that shell,
Yeah. You say hungry. And where did that hunger come from?
I think it comes, I think it comes from a bit about my parents because my parents have always been very athletic and just, they brought me up really, really well, as far as morals and values. But ever since I was a kid and I got into sports, it was like, I was just like the kid you didn't mess with. Like one of my coaches, I used to play soccer and he's like, this girl has tenacity. He's like, you can't teach that to people. She's like, she was born with that. She's like, this girl would probably knock over her own mother to score a goal. He said that at a banquet one time. But I think that the hunger is just like, you just want to win so bad. And that's the thing is like in soccer, I was like, that's all I thought about. It wasn't just like I go and I play and it's okay. It was like, no, this is a contact sport, and the goal is to win. Like, and for me, I always looked at it as like, I really want to please and make my coaches proud. Like I always wanted to be the number one, the top, obviously just naturally type A, very competitive. So that hunger, it comes from wanting something. As humans, we're driven by reward. So I obviously wanted the result of winning and being the best and just being very tough. Like I said, that was the tomboy in me, is always being the tough one. And I always like the challenge too of, competing with people, is like not to be better than them, but better than my former self.
So do you think people can learn a bit of that hunger? Because so many people want to lose weight. So many people want to get healthier. So many people want more money. So are they just, you sound like you had some of that innately.
Mm-hmm.
So can that be learned? Can that be trained? How does that work?
It kind of brings me back to the point, they say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, but you can put salt in the water, make him thirsty.
Ah,
And I think that, being in sales, and basically what I'm doing on a call with a prospect is I'm really just getting them to take action that they would never have otherwise, or I'm getting them to believe in themselves that they can do better and be better and have better. And that's the thing, is even before I got into personal development, I really probably wouldn't have pursued it on my own had my fiance not been already like pursuing it. And I was just kind of naturally following along. And I had some resistance myself because I didn't realize what paradigms were back then, but now I understand, a lot about that, about mindset, and a lot of things make sense now in hindsight. But I think that you can absolutely, channel that. Like, that's why, Tom Brady has a coach, is because he's going to push Tom Brady better than and harder than Tom Brady will, because Tom Brady will think he's tapped out and he'll say one more. Like, that's why people have gym partners, is they say, one more, come on, push it, and it's amazing what the body can do when you push it to its limits, and that's really what we're trying to do. Is when we go in the gym and we want our muscles to grow, we don't pick up the lightest weight. We pick up the weight that will make us go to failure. So having a good relationship with failure and knowing that it's a necessary step towards success, it's part of mental toughness. So I think that there have been a lot of people that learned, like Tony Robbins, he wasn't born necessarily mentally tough or hungry. He grew up, poor, and he struggled his way into fame and fortune, but I think that even now, knowing what I know about him and a lot of these leaders in society, the most successful and wealthiest people, they're using the exact principles I now teach. Universal law, paradigms, a lot of the stuff that Bob Proctor teaches is what this stuff, what these leaders now learn, because there's a science to getting wealthy,
Let's talk more about the law of attraction. I remember seeing The Secret, the documentary, 10, 12 years ago, it must have been.
2006, yeah.
Yeah. And I felt so pumped, and I was like, I made a vision board, but somewhere along the line, it kind of fizzled for me, and so what do you, for one, can you define what is the law of attraction?
Yeah. This is one of my favorite topics, because it's actually what helped me inspired me to write the book. And it was, it's funny because I saw The Secret. That's the first time I really ever heard of the law of attraction, was through the movie The Secret, or even like through Wayne Dyer. The first book about self-help I ever read was the Power of Intention. Okay. And I didn't act on it. I read the book, put it on the shelf, never read it again, didn't really know what to do, but I always understood the concept of law of attraction, but I never studied it enough to understand it and actually use it. So the law of attraction is basically, a lot of people think it's a primary law, meaning like what you think about, you can attract. Like, you want something bad enough, you attract it. You think of that big car, you take a picture in that car, you put it on your vision board, or you think about money, and money will just magically be manifested. And it was actually Bob Proctor that really clarified it for me. And when he explained that the law of attraction is not a primary law, as most people and a lot of people who saw The Secret think, it's actually a secondary law. It's responding to something else. And the thing is, it's not something that you work. It's really just responding to your vibration. Like, our physical body, like we're a very complex electromagnetic being. Okay. We can actually photograph energy leaving the body. Simeon Kirlian created, Kirlian photography, where they can see auras like glowing, and our bodies are basically cells, masses of cells. I mean, you're a doctor, masses of cells vibrating at a high speed of motion. And every cell in our body has a positive, negative charge. And when we say, I feel a certain way, feeling is basically a conscious awareness of a vibration, good or bad vibration. Okay. Energy is moving. Everything. That's what the law of vibration states, is that everything in this universe moves, nothing rests, so we're either growing or dying. We're gaining momentum or losing momentum, creating or disintegrating, but nothing's really standing still. Even when we die, if you look at our ashes, they're still vibrating particles. Okay. And what's interesting is that basically when you say the word emotion, it's energy in motion. Okay. So when we feel a certain way, like I said, our whole body moves into that vibration, and the vibration that we're in sets up a signal, almost like a radio station, out to the universe. The law of attraction is responding to that vibration. So it's almost like a magnet. That's why I called it magnetic love, is because it's almost like if you have oil and water, they repel. So if somebody's thinking lack and limitation, then they can't manifest abundance. It's the opposite. You have to be thinking abundance and in harmony with abundance, and have an abundance mindset and vibration to then be a vibrational match for the law of attraction to then send it to you. Because it's almost like love is like oxygen. It's all out there. We just got to tune into it. Same thing with wealth and abundance. Those aren't things that we get. They're literally all around us. We just have to learn how to tune into them. And the way that we tune into the law of attraction is by being consciously aware of the vibration we're in. And when it switches to negative, we consciously shift it back to the positive. But that's the thing, is people don't understand that their paradigms control the vibration that they're in. Okay. And a paradigm is just basically a multitude of habits that's fixed in the subconscious mind. You know, we have a conscious thinking mind, and then we have a subconscious emotional mind. That's actually our real heart, by the way. Might make some people quirk an eyebrow, but when we say I love you with all my heart, it's not the heart in our chest, the organ that pumps blood. We don't feel with that part of our body. The mind is in every cell in the body, but our conscious mind is where we think. We gather information, we accept or reject beliefs. It's where we know things. But our subconscious mind is in charge of executing behavior, what we get emotionally involved with, what we plant the seed of desire into, okay? And our paradigms are basically, you have these fixed ideas that you've picked up since you were a kid, and they're fixed in your mind, and those are commonly referred to as habits. We are what we repeatedly do, therefore excellence is not an act but a habit. That's an Aristotle quote. Now, when you have a multitude of habits, they create what we call a paradigm, okay? And like I said, we basically, if you reverse engineer the process of getting results in life, what gets us this reality, you know, that the law of attraction we think we're responding to is, you know, our actions create our results, but our thoughts cause our certain actions. Where do our thoughts come from? They come from our paradigms, our conditioning, you know, so our conditioned thinking, we only can think thoughts in harmony with our paradigm. So again, if we're programmed to be poor and we're thinking poor thoughts, we can't be wealthy. It's just, we're again, it's almost like being on a different radio station. So a lot of people are trying to use the law of attraction. They're on a different radio station. They don't understand that everything in this universe operates on frequencies, levels of vibration, levels of awareness. And that the people that you see successful, wealthy, happy, healthy, you know, just thriving in life, they're just highly evolved because they're either knowingly or unknowingly using more of their inner potential. They know how to tap into it. And that's why helping a mentor can help somebody do that. Because it's not like, again, you see, and that's what I said. I said, if everybody knew how to use the law of attraction, we'd all be millionaires. We'd all literally be running around in riches and having everything we want, fortune, fame. But that's the thing, is the reason why they call it The Secret, that movie, is because The Secret was suppressed way back in the ages of, you know, the Henry Fords, the Andrew Carnegies, Thomas Edisons, is they didn't want the secret getting out to the general public. They wanted to keep it all for themselves, you know? And so the book Think and Grow Rich really started to reveal these secrets of these 500 successful and wealthy men and women, you know? So that's a long-winded answer. But like I said, you think law of attraction, law of vibration have a magnetic effect. So you all you need to do is really focus on the cause. The effect will take care of itself. The law of cause and effect is the law of laws, even bigger than the law of the attraction. But the law of attraction decrees that you can only attract to you what you're in harmony with. So if you're thinking negative, feeling negative, if subconsciously you're programmed on negativity, you can therefore only attract negativity all the time, every person, everywhere. That's a universal law, irrefutable. So on the flip side, though, like I said, when you're a vibrational match for what you desire, you've got to match that and be in harmony and perfect alignment to receive that, because the universe is always wanting to send it to you. You just got to say yes and align yourself and find out how to do that. And then it's like you can have whatever you want. You're an infinite being, you know? It's amazing.
Yeah. I love it. I'm like in. So now for the people who are skeptical, can we talk about maybe an example from your life? Because you dealt with the autoimmune Hashimoto's, is that right? If I remember correctly. Yeah. So Hashimoto's thyroiditis, it affects your metabolism. It's an autoimmune disease where your thyroid gets attacked by your own immune system.
Yeah.
What was that like? And how did you, what do you think caused it? And then how did you recover from that?
Yeah. Well, I think that there's, just to answer your first question about people who are skeptical, is like a lot of people think that like the law of attraction is like woo woo, like you have to believe in it for it to work, or that it works for some people, work for others. but like I said, we're bound to condemn what we don't understand. And I was one of those people. I just kept saying, well, maybe this law of attraction doesn't work, or I'm doing something wrong, but it never dawned on me to study and try to figure it out. I just got discouraged, you know? But if you think of the law of gravity, that's a pretty easy one for people to understand. They think gravity, they don't understand it is a universal law, just like the law of attraction, law of vibration, law of polarity. But basically that law states that anything that is heavier than the weight of air will be pulled to the Earth's gravity. Okay, so when you jump off a building or off of anything, you don't go up sometimes, down sometimes, you go down all the time, unless you're lighter than the weight of air, or you know how to fly, you know, and that's what Bob said. So, but that's an irrefutable law. So again, we're impacted by the force of gravity at all times, but we can't see it. We can't really understand and explain it. It just is. So the law of attraction is no different. It's always operating and responding to your frequency, to your dominating thoughts. Like our thoughts penetrate all time and space. It's called cosmic energy. And that's why, like, sometimes you'll be thinking of a person, all of a sudden they call you and be like, oh my God, I was just thinking of you. It's no coincidence. You know, it's just really like what they call it, like, you know, cosmic consciousness. It's like a highly evolved and awakened being. You know, we're literally spiritual beings living in a physical body. And as humans, what separates us from the animal kingdom is we have an intellect. We have higher mental faculties, like our imagination, that allows us to create. We have intuition that we can feel and interpret things, like, you know, we have willpower, reason, memory, all these higher mental faculties, perception. So to get back into, you know, an example of how the law of attraction worked for me was, it really all started when I met Brian. And the way I met him was, it was like, for the first time in my life, I broke up with somebody. I finally just said, you know what, I would rather be single than be in a relationship where I'm not treated the way I deserved. And most of the time I just kept settling because I'd rather be in a relationship than be single, because it was like awful for me to be alone. I didn't love myself, couldn't stand myself apparently. But when I met Brian, it was the first time, like, I had actually seen the abundance factor, and I decided, okay, I really need to make a vision board for real this time, because I never really made one. And I made a vision board, and I put, you know, I saw this picture I saw on Facebook, and it was like two souls hugging each other, like just look like galactic beings, like no face, just starry people. And it said, you know, you're a spiritual being in human form, and sometimes you just desire to be with another soul that feels like home. And I kept, you know, posting pictures on Facebook and putting that energy out there, what these love quotes, and this is what my idea of love is. I just created a folder, but I took that picture and I said, you know, that's what love feels like. It's like home. It feels safe and secure and warm and just familiar, you know, and like home for me is not a place. It's in someone else's arms. Like that's the only thing I ever wanted in my life was my soulmate, my person I'd spend the rest of my life with. And life felt so incomplete without it, but I didn't realize, like, I didn't love myself. And therefore, like, there's really only two emotions everything can be categorized under, is love or fear. So my fear was fear of ending up single my whole life, or fear of not finding somebody, or fear of, you know, just relationship after relationship ending. So, but I didn't realize that I was on that frequency. So again, I was just attracting what I was fearing, is people leaving, relationships ending, being alone and lonely and being needy and all this energy. And like I said, I didn't realize that subconsciously I was sending that energy out to the universe. So that's the thing, is I wasn't consciously aware that, again, I was thinking something up here like, oh, I just want to love somebody. No, what I was saying subconsciously, I want someone to love me because I don't love myself. So it just really clicked when I started to study this law of attraction, and like, what did I finally do right when I found Brian and made a vision board? And literally, this is the thing here, Aron, is we met on August 5th of 2016. And we found out a couple of days after we started talking, because we instantly clicked. Like, we met on Match.com, but what I found out is that we literally joined Match.com the same day, and I was the first one he wrote to. I found that out like 3 days later. And I also told him, I said, for the first time in my life, I made a vision board I wanted in a man, and you're everything I asked for. And he's like, my jaw dropped. He's like, I did the same thing. He's like, I've been making vision boards forever for my businesses, but never for a woman. You know, he's been divorced twice, and he just said he never met somebody so mentally stimulating as me, you know, and there's 17 years between us, but we just really believed in universal law and law of attraction. We could talk for hours on it. He's like, I knew before I met you, we met in person a week later. He's like, I knew on the phone that you were the one, you know, and 2 months later, he asked me to marry him. And I just said yes. And like I said, I had paradigms too, because I said, I'm not going to rush into anything. I've been, you know, screwed over so many times. I'm not going to do that. I kept promising myself, but it was just something about him that I just felt that home. Like, it's okay. Like, don't bring anything from the past into this. Don't ruin it. This is it. It feels right. Just trust your intuition. And thank God I did, because my mom was like, you don't go out with strangers and you don't do this and you don't do that and you slow down. And I was just like, oh geez, like there's the genetic and environmental conditioning. And I'm glad Brian wanted to take me on like a whole date weekend and just make it the most memorable weekend ever. And I could have almost said no. I almost said no at first, because I'm like, that's against what my rules are and stuff. But it was the most amazing thing. And we really just connected. And like, you know, one thing led to another. And like I said, we got engaged and we're getting married next month, as a matter of fact. But it was just really special, you know, that love story. And like I said, just everything that's happened ever since, because it was, you know, just a couple months later, we went to go meet Bob Proctor. We joined his business. And then I was able to, you know, just quit my job, and I got the idea to write the book and basically write in there everything we've talked about. You know, and now, you know, fast forward, you know, multiple companies, turned my annual income into a monthly income. The biggest thing too was understanding that Hashimoto's, what caused it was most of it was my broken thinking, because I was so self-critical to the point my own body started to attack itself because I didn't love me. It's actually, my body's like, okay, well, let's just break down. You know, like you're always sending us negative messages, you know, and just like I said, if you look at one of the studies I give in there's a rice experience, and then there's a water experiment, Dr. Emoto. But
the memory of water, right? Yeah.
When you send energy like to water, like if you have 2 jars and you say, I hate you, I love you, and then you photograph the water, the particles in the hate jar will be all like distorted, but the picture, you know, the ones in the I love you jar are like beautiful snowflakes if you freeze them. Now, same thing with the rice experiment. You put rice water and you give it that energy, it will decay, it will rot, and then the other one will ferment and it will be preserved. And so, like I was saying, our words, our mind-body connection is super powerful. And that's the basis of the movie The Secret, The Think and Grow Rich, is we become what we think about. Our thoughts are things. It creates a chemical reaction in our body. So for me, the light bulb moment was, again, the fear-based thinking of being a perfectionist, fear of imperfection, fear of rejection, you know, just having this unrealistic ideal of how I wanted my body to look, you know, and it further was perpetuated by being a bodybuilder and again, being judged on how perfect I am, you know, but that's what made me really just get out of that. As I said, I cannot be doing this to my body, and my body's literally breaking down and I'm just pushing it to those limits. I was able to make a complete 100% reversal of that condition that they said was pretty much incurable, and that because it's an autoimmune condition, I'll at least be in remission for the rest of my life. And I just wasn't willing to accept that, because I understood that I can heal myself and I will. And it was through, you know, stop focusing on and feeding the disease and accepting that it's a part of me. And I just started to say, you know what, I don't have it anymore. You know, I always was able to handle it, because it wasn't just the belief in the thinking, you know, in the woo-woo. It was, I had a really great diet. I wasn't eating things that would trigger it, but I educated myself about it. But it was really just the last component, because I was doing everything right, but I was still, you know, emotionally a wreck, and like, you know, crippling fatigue, and my body was just, my metabolism started to crash and gaining weight, and you just feel horrible. But it was the damage I was doing on myself up here first that was manifesting physically, because again, the body's an instrument of the mind. So again, I was able to make a complete 180, you know, with that condition. I wrote a book and, you know, launched it 7 months later after meeting Bob, and went #1 bestseller. Again, was able to quit my job as a nurse because I just wasn't happy there, and I wasn't making the kind of money I know I could make. And now I'm, you know, self-employed entrepreneur, sharing my knowledge and my experience, you know, teaching Bob's principles and paradigms to people all over the world, you know, and just the fulfillment of just how inspirational it is to people and the messages I get. And even the reviews on my book on Amazon have been just incredibly inspiring to keep me going, you know, knowing I'm making a difference in my own way. So.
Yeah, I looked up your book on Amazon. It's like, oh, 5 stars. Like, you know, how many books have actually hundreds of 5-star reviews on Amazon? Not many. So you must be doing something right.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
So where do you think people go wrong with applying the law of attraction? Where do they mess up?
I think that, like I said, it's part of it is just, and there's a difference between stupidity and ignorance. It's just, ignorance is just not knowing. Because until we're at a level of awareness, like Bob says, you know, if you've got a headache, it's because you don't know how to get rid of the headache. If we are a certain way, it's because we're ignorant. We don't know how to not be that way, you know, and I think that not a lot of people go wrong, but it's like when you understand like what you can learn from like an expert like Bob, like it's why we do anything. Why do we have a teacher? Why do we have a coach? Is because a coach knows they've done what we want to do and they can teach us so we can learn. So when we study from someone like Bob, we can literally say, okay, this guy's an expert. He obviously knows what he's talking about. And I can literally just kind of hook my brain up to his and download the, thousands of books he's read and thousands and hundreds of seminars he's participated in to basically earn the level of awareness where he's at, because he's light years ahead of anybody in this industry. Obviously is a master of himself, master of the universal laws, but it's because he studied them so intently. And he says the key to freedom is through understanding. And the only way to understand something is to study it. But a lot of people make the mistake of studying intellectually. They'll watch videos, they'll read books, but they still won't make it happen. Like Bob says, he said, when I read Think and Grow Rich, or I listened to The Strangest Secret, which is a condensed narration of it by Earl Nightingale, he said, I literally gave that away by the hundreds to everybody I knew. I would give people Think and Grow Rich. And he said, why me? Why did I change? Why did these people do exactly what I did and not change? And he said, because he changed his paradigms. And the paradigms, as I mentioned, are a multitude of habits stored in the subconscious mind, but they are the primary cause of our results in life. So it's almost like if you try to do something without changing your paradigm, it's like treating a symptom. Like you're a doctor, you understand like drugs and conventional medicine, Western medicine goes after, it's disease management. It's not treating, it's not building health. It's just treating a symptom or a side effect of a deeper problem. So like for me, when I went after the root cause of my Hashimoto's, it wasn't anything I was eating. It wasn't anything outside of me. It was right up here, my mind, and there's a psychosomatic approach to a lot of other diseases too. Obviously there are environmental triggers. But disease has a lot to do with stress, and constant negative thinking is very, very bad. It causes disintegration in the body. And Bob talks about how when you whatever you impress upon your subconscious mind must be expressed by law in the physical body. It's the only form readily available. So if we're impressing thoughts of fear, doubt, and worry all the time, because it's hard to consciously think positive because our mind is always looking for what's wrong or what's negative, okay? Because it's a survival mechanism. If we didn't do that, we'd be dead, So we have to physically, intentionally be positive. And it's not just positive thinking, but it's positive action. That's the thing, is people are doing the right things. They're doing things mechanically, but they're not entering into the spirit and becoming one at the core source of who they are, knowing, like I said, I didn't hear about the law of vibration in The Secret. I only heard of, again, the law of attraction. So it's almost like we got half the knowledge, and I didn't read Think and Grow Rich until, just recently. So again, I think that the biggest mistake people made is they don't take it to the next level. They know it on a conscious level. They know of it, but they don't know it. They don't understand it, because if they understood it enough to like master the concept, they would be seeing a changed result as a spin-off of that. They would be able to see something like one of the things I use is a lot of times for people with their income, because I always tell people your income isn't going to exceed your personal growth. As you grow, your bank account will grow, but you literally can't make more money, like unless you are operating at the level of money you want to be making. Or like I said, money is just basically, we get compensated in direct proportion to the service we're providing. Okay. So if we're not providing that degree of service, whatever it is, money's not coming. Okay. Money's energy, it's a magnifier of who we are, but we can attract more money. There's many different ways to attract money. But again, if we've got paradigms that are pushing money away, like money's the root of all evil, or all rich people are greedy, or, money is scarce, or I should hoard and hold on to the small amount of money I have. Again, that's a scarcity mindset, lack limitation. You're not going to manifest more money when you don't already appreciate what you already have, and you're not letting go and activating the law of circulation, which means that we're just distribution centers. Money comes in, money goes out. But if we're not like giving with our money and helping other people, then we're basically choking the hose for more to come to us. People don't realize that. They think they have to give, but it's actually the law of giving that activates the law of receiving, and therefore abundance flows. So again, it's funny because I didn't know any of this stuff a year and a half ago, but I think that's a long-winded answer for you've got to study. And the best thing you can do is get a mentor, because they're really going to shorten the learning curve and just really steer you from making a lot of mistakes. Like I had to learn the hard way. I'm sure you might have learned the hard way a couple of times too, just because we're like, oh, how does this thing work? It's frustrating. And when you're frustrated, you're in a negative vibration, and you're obviously going to further push away what you want. So end of the day, it's like I said, mentors can do wonders for you to help you go leaps and bounds. And like I said, make that quantum leap and just show you the path. Like, hey, I've done this already. Just follow my lead,
Exactly. I just think in the last year or so, I've invested, probably tens of thousands of dollars learning from other people. And these are people who are like, oh, it's easy to do, easy to set up a practice. It's easy to learn how to sell, whatever it might be. So as long as you have a guide, they can shortcut that learning curve and frustration curve
Mhm.
by like 90%. And so tell us a bit more about the framework on how you help people change their paradigm.
Right,
What
right.
does that process actually look like? It's nice to say,
Yeah,
I'm going to change my mindset, but I'm sure people have thought, I'm going to think positive tomorrow, and it never
yeah.
happens.
Well, that's the thing is like when somebody thinks, think positive, like I said, we're a product of our habits. We are creatures of habit. So in order for us to actually do something, like I said, it's really, we're operating off of the programming, the mental programming. So if we're going to change our life, our behaviors, our results, we've got to do some rewiring of up here. And like, it's not easy because your paradigm is basically there because it wants you to be stuck inside your comfort zone. And like I said, if you think of an acorn, which is a seed, has the potential to go into a giant oak tree. But it will remain a seed when it's not planted in the right environment where, like by law of attraction, it can create that magnetic force to attract the nutrients, the water and the sunlight to have that grow. So there needs to be a stimulus for the growth, but it's all about environment. Okay. So when I talk to people about paradigms, like I said, it's specifically Bob Proctor's the only one teaching paradigms. So I obviously, as a consultant, I'm licensed to teach and train his content. So basically the way that works is there's only two ways to change a paradigm. And you really can't do it by yourself because we're kind of stuck in our own head. And a paradigm is almost like an invisible cage. It's meant to keep us stuck in the comfort zone. A lot of people say, I feel stuck. They don't understand that they're in their comfort zone and they don't know how to get out, because every time they get out, it's almost like you're trying to plant something and somebody's coming behind you digging it up. And it never matures long enough to grow and stay there because, like I said, somebody goes to the gym one day and then they take 10 days off. You need to be consistent. You've got to give yourself a command and follow it, which is discipline. And you've got to have consistency, because a habit, you say, if you go to the gym for 30 days, you'll probably be able to keep that consistently going. But if you say, somebody goes to bed, it's called the acrasia effect. It's why don't we follow through on what we say we're going to do, is because we don't really, basically our identity, our ego wants instant gratification. So if you say, I'm going to go to the gym today, it's not going to benefit you right now. It's going to benefit you 3 months from now to get that body. So we end up trading what we want now versus what we want, 3 months from now. We give into the cake, or we stop going to the gym and we just make up excuses. So changing paradigms is not easy, especially when you're trying to do it by yourself. Because again, it's just like law of attraction. People have no idea what monster they're dealing with. And anytime they try to break out of their comfort zone, they will feel fear, because it's your body saying, listen, this is uncomfortable, or somebody's hesitating, or they're, doing something they don't normally do. Like, get out of there. No, jump away. This could be dangerous. But that's what I'm saying, is fear is relative to danger. So you've got to be able to have, again, the conscious awareness and the level of awareness to basically say, you know what, this is okay. Like starting a business, having a baby, buying a house, going to college, those are all scary things, but we do them anyway, but changing a paradigm is something you do either through constant spaced repetition with a coach, deliberately planting the seeds in that subconscious mind. And then through like emotion, which is the language of the subconscious, we are able to be emotionally involved. Because in Think and Grow Rich, they talk about faith and belief are coloring, something, and being emotionally involved. Because if you're not really emotionally involved with something, it's like, forget it. It's not going to happen. We've got to have a burning desire for something. Okay. Because again, as humans, we're driven by reward. We're either moving towards pleasure or away from pain. Those are very strong stimuli. And the only reason people would change is they're either really, really inspired or they're desperate. Okay. And certain people just have more willpower. They just want something more than another person. They have a much stronger desire, because there are people that say, I want more money and I want a better body and I want my soulmate, but they don't desire it. They don't need it. They don't need it like they need to breathe. Okay. So desire, it's got to be strong enough. And desire is like a seed. It's like unexpressed potential, just lying dormant in our mind, waiting to be properly planted into the subconscious, which, like I said, our subconscious mind is like a garden. It accepts whatever is impressed on it, whatever gets through our conscious mind into that subconscious. And like I said, as soon as it gets there and it takes root, that's it. The subconscious mind doesn't accept or reject. That's the conscious mind's job. Once something we get emotionally involved with, it's planted there, it immediately starts to move into form. It is, again, whatever's impressed upon the mind, feared, revered, emotionally involved with starts to begin at once to then move into that form. That's the law of transmutation of energy. Okay. That's another universal law people should understand, is how do we literally think an idea like this was just an idea. This iPhone was just an idea in someone's mind. The thought, they were fantasizing about it, became a theory, turned the theory into a goal, and then they stretched their potential by being emotionally involved in that goal. Like Thomas Edison making the light bulb. They said he failed or found 10,000 ways it didn't work till he finally succeeded. But it's like most people will give up after the first or second try, because but that's the thing, is he understood these principles, and he's like, we will get there just like we got to the moon. And that's what John F. Kennedy said. What would it take to get there? And he said, the will. The decision changes everything. This I will do. We will get to the moon, whatever it takes. Doesn't matter how much it costs. People aren't worrying about how it's going to happen. And we did it. Wright brothers getting the plane off the ground.
Can we give an example of, let's say someone's trying to earn more money, right? That's a kind of a big thing that people struggle with, finances.
Yeah.
And they've been trying, but they start a business and then they stop, or they start an idea and then it doesn't really go anywhere. How do you plant that seed in the right place? Or, how do you, are there weeds you got to pull out first?
Yeah,
if we use that analogy?
Yeah, that's the thing, is you first have to start with a goal. Okay. And they've got to get emotionally involved in that goal. So you ask somebody, what do you want? 99 out of 10 people you ask walking down, say, hey, what's your goal? They're probably kind of looking like, what do you mean? Like people, like Bob says, that most people just want generalized conditions that are desired by everybody. They want more money. They want more time. They want to travel. They want a healthy body. They want a beautiful relationship. But those are not goals. Those are ideals. So when you say, I want to make, or usually you say the goal in the present tense, I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm earning $50,000 a month by July 1st. Okay. So it's got a deadline. It's got a clearly defined goal, backed by a definite purpose and a definite decision to achieve that goal. And then, like I said, that goal becomes, like I said, so if you're here, say if you're making $2,000 a month and you want to be making 10, we got to close that gap. But we say, well, right now you're thinking thoughts and taking actions and having habits that are at a $2,000 a month goal. And it's almost funny. I saw a quote, I think it's Grant Cardone. He says, you can't make $1 million with a minimum wage work ethic. You can't be a millionaire with a minimum wage work ethic, or you can't be a millionaire with $50,000 a year habits and mindset. So we need to get people operating at this level. They need to be in harmony. So when we raise their vibration, now they can reach that goal. It's not a matter of getting the goal. It's becoming something. Okay. Because if you say, like, I want to write a book, what you should say I want to become an author, because authors write books, or if like a runner runs. Okay. So it's more the becoming, like Bob teaches that goals are not for getting something. That's the thing, is we think, I'm going to make a goal to get through nursing school, but that's really mechanical. But when you say like a goal is something you really want, you don't know how to do it, but that's how you stretch your potential. It gets you to stimulate you to think in a certain way, but it entices you to be the person you need to be in order to achieve it. So if somebody says, the most I ever made in a month is like $2,000, I said, okay, well, that's your level of awareness. That's where your paradigm is programmed with respects to money. If you knew how to make $10,000 a month, you'd be doing it. So there's something missing here. So all we need to do is get somebody to say, okay, well, what are all the ways that I can make $10,000? Well, maybe you could work 5 times as hard and 5 times as long, like just 5 times the hours of work. We said, no, we want to leverage ourselves. We want to be able to do more with less. We want to have multiple streams of income. Like I said, being an employee, you really can't make a significant amount of money. So probably having your own business is a good way to go. But it's really just finding out, what do you like? Because we'll naturally be good at what we like. We'll want to keep doing it. We get good at it. We get paid, and that's how this works. There's a law of compensation that states that you will be compensated in relation to 3 things: the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty there is in replacing you. Okay. So again, laws of the universe govern everything, the amount of money we make. So again, if you're not a vibrational match for manifesting more money, because again, you're always saying how much expensive something is, or you can't afford that, or I'm trying to get out of debt. You're focusing on debt. You're in debt. You'll always be in debt because you don't know how to get out of debt and manifest abundance. You're focusing on lack and limitation, and that's what's expanding. Okay. So again, going back to you asked the question, obviously, about changing paradigms is either a deep emotional impact, which I've experienced by spending a week in a room with Bob as part of a live event, but also you got to change a habit the same way it was formed. Is repetition is the mother of all learning, So, but yeah, does that answer your last question too?
It does. Yeah. There's a lot to digest here. No, this is great because I think you are an example just based on reading your bio, right? You've done all these things.
Mm-hmm.
You've set clear goals. Like if someone searches you on like YouTube, they'll find like motivational fitness things like, okay, this, you're not just like a fake bodybuilder or fitness model. You actually did it and you've done many things.
Yeah.
So what are your success habits? What are your habits that you use to train your paradigm?
Yeah, I think one of the first things is being an early riser. Like when I met Bob and I decided to become a consultant, and I was writing a book and I was working full time. It's like I just overcommitted myself, but I just figured it out. I didn't sit here and be like, oh my God, I can't do this, and start focusing on the negative. I just said, okay, let's prioritize. So I started getting up. I was probably getting up at 4:30. I started to get up at 4 a.m. No excuses. Just every day, 4 o'clock, boom, out of bed. I was never a snooze person, snooze alarm. I just made good decisions, and I was so committed to my goals. It was like, I didn't have to think. I didn't have to get up and be like, oh, what do I want to do? Or do I want to go to the gym? Or do I get up? Do I hit the snooze button? It was just, no, the decision's already made. I've got discipline and I've got confidence, and I'm moving towards these goals. And, cause like, I know the universe likes speed. So what I did was when I decided to write my book, I'm like, I was in December, mid-December. I'm like, I want this done by the end of the year. I don't mess around. So took me a couple weeks.
Wait, did you say you decided to write a book in December and you wanted it done by the end of the year? That's
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I literally hired a coach like right away, and I did everything she said to do because that's what Bob told me to do, and it was a friend of his, Peggy McCall. And then I studied her program, so I would literally wake up for hours and just transcribe, take notes, and then all the ideas just literally flooded to me, and I just wrote it. It was almost like, I don't even know how I did it. It was almost like you just get this flood of thoughts when you're just tuned into that energy, and just whatever came to mind, I just put on paper, and then I typed it. And I said, I kept working backwards from my goal. I said, this is how much I got to do every day. And then I ended up spending the next 7 months, like perfecting it and putting things in and taking things out and learning from other people. And then like, it really just, I have to push the deadline a couple times so that it was like the perfect thing. Like I changed not the title, but the subtitle probably 3 different times. I changed the cover. Like perfectionist, just had to have it right, And it was my first book. So again, I really wanted to do it right. And just, I was listening to a lot of people being pulled in different directions. But I think, waking up early is just, I think, a well-known fact of, people that wake up earlier, they're very productive. Like I would wake up at 4 hours before most people would wake up. I'd already have a half a day's work done, and like, I just felt super productive. And like I said, when Bob says, a lot of people think when they wake up super early that they're going to be tired throughout the day. Again, that's a paradigm in and of itself. You're going to create a self-fulfilling prophecy. Is for me, I never thought of that. Like I would work, wake up at 4, go to bed at 10. That was my rhythm. But everywhere in between, I was boundless energy. And that's when I actually healed myself. I knew I healed because I was like bouncing off the walls. And I'm like, man, I haven't had this kind of energy since I was a kid. And it was just because he says desire releases energy. Remember how I said desire is unexpressed potential? When you properly planned it, it's like you open up a floodgate. And it's like, but the people that you said in business, they start something and then they never go. It's because they're not operating at their highest potential. They're trying to start a business. And Bob says, when you're trying to do something and you're in the wrong vibration, it's practically useless because like you're doing something on a low level of awareness. And like even Einstein says, you can't solve a problem on the same level of thinking that caused it. It's insanity to do that. Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Or people are constantly living life based on past experiences, and they've got these negative limited paradigms and they don't understand that. And again, they bring that into a business, and a business is a reflection of its owner. Everything you do in life is a reflection of your inner thinking. So if we want to create a successful business, we need to be successful. We need to become that. We need to have successful habits. We need to have a mentally tough mindset. We need to have mentors that are going to show us how to succeed, because we obviously, if we try and fail, there's something we don't know. That's feedback. What needs to change? If you look at your results in life right now, it's feedback. What do I need to rewire within me to have what I want to have on the outside, to live the results that I want to create? So that's kind of, in a nutshell, to answer that question. Like I said, a lot of people want to make more money, but they're not emotionally involved in what that's going to take. They're not properly planting the seed and raising their level of awareness. They're not growing. Your income grows as you grow. It doesn't happen any other way. Jim Rohn said that your income rarely exceeds your personal growth. So for you to grow, it requires you to step outside your comfort zone. And most people do not know how to do that or don't want to do that. It's almost like you don't wake up and say, I feel like going on a diet or I feel like going to the gym, but everybody wants that amazing body. So like I said, it's the work in between. And like I said, it's instant gratification. It's being able, they said the most successful people are those who can delay gratification. Okay. And that's the truth, because even me, I've been guilty of this when I went from employee to entrepreneur. Is like, I'm used to going to work, getting paid. And when you're an entrepreneur, you're going to be overworked and underpaid for a period of time until that business matures. Like I said, there's a law of gestation for that business to grow. You've got to invest. And all of a sudden, whoosh, you know, and it's like, that's like a quantum leap. Is that most people say, okay, well, I'm going to make goals and just get 10%, 15% better. And Bob would say, why not 500? You know, and because the thing that then your meter goes off and you're like, well, that's illogical. That's unrealistic. Really? According to who? You know, according to your paradigm, your limitations that you've put in your mind. You know, when we're kids, we have this wild imagination. You know, we don't care. We don't reject beliefs and ideas. We just believe in everything. But as humans, you know, as we get older, they don't want us, you know, they say you have to know how to do something. You got to use logic. Don't use your imagination. That's silly. But in fact, our imagination is what has created the most amazing things, and what people can do with our mind. That creative faculty that, you know, that we use is absolutely one of the most powerful things that we have as human beings. Again, it's what separates us from animals. Ability to use that imagination. That's just one of 6. It's like little mental muscles. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And that's how you strengthen your mind, is through concentration. The problem is, Aron, is that nowadays people have an attention span of less than that of a goldfish, about 8 seconds. Because again, we're bombarded by social media and electromagnetic frequencies, and you know, the food that we eat is low vibration. And it's like I said, I could go on and on about that, you know, in and of itself. But like I said, what we really need to focus on, how to live a fulfilled life, is that money doesn't necessarily mean happiness. Wealth is a measure of time, quality, like all the things that are really good in life that I treasure, money can't buy. Love, nature, music, you know, I love movies. Movies have emotional impacts. My family, my friends, I mean, money can't buy those things, but I treasure those, you know, but I value the ability that I have to work a career that I love doing, that allows me to have a flexible lifestyle, you know, and if I had stayed as a nurse and just had stayed ignorant doing what I was doing, I probably would have been settling for a mediocre life, but that just wasn't me. You know, I always was like a go-getter and, you know, wanted to do certain things to live the life I wanted to live. So that was really the game changer for me. So again, success habits, waking up early, delaying gratification, having a mentor, and just having a can-do attitude, because attitude is the only thing we really can control. We can't control people. We can't control circumstances all the time. We can control how we react or respond to certain situations. And no matter what's going on outside of us, or even if we don't have something we want, at least we can create and enjoy it. Like Bob says, emotionally and mentally enjoy it, even if it hasn't manifested physically. Or if somebody says something nasty to you, like, just reject it and just let it slide. But most of us, you know, can't do that. We don't have a lot of self-control. So I think when you are at a high level of awareness and you have self-control and you master yourself, master your thoughts, you can master a new way to be, to act, you know, and to become what it is you want to be. Because when you become the best version of yourself, this is what my book says: stop chasing what you want, start attracting it. Okay? Because you're always looking outside of you. It's like, no, become the best version of yourself. Those things will chase you. You know, become the magnet for what it is you want. You will become a vibrational match. And that's really how this all works.
That's so powerful. Well, I know you have to head off to another important call on this topic in particular. So I want to acknowledge you just for educating us on the law of attraction, explaining what it actually is and what it isn't, and your energy. Just being on this call, your energy projects through the screen and through the speakers, and I hope people can feel that. So where can people find out more about what you do, and if they're interested in learning more about the law of attraction and your work?
Yeah, well, I think I do have a couple websites. Magneticlove.com. You can find a little bit more about my book. We have Matrix Success Network is our company website. They can check out, you know, what we're all about, book a free call, check it out. We also, you know, you can get on our email list through any one of those pages. But I think that those would be 2 good places to start for now.
And if we have any additional resources, we'll put that in the show notes.
I do have, you know, I'm happy to give an email address. It would be jennylyn@jennylyn.com, and it's JENNIELYNN at the same thing.com. So jennylyn@jennylyn.com. Feel free to hit me up, you know. And again, Aron, I really appreciate you, you know, reaching out and featuring me on here. You know, I know you didn't talk a lot about yourself a lot, but you are a naturopathic doctor. You know, you are, you know, a high ticket closer. You know, you probably got your own laundry list of credentials, but I really am inspired and amazed by you having your own podcast, having guests on like me. And it's just such an unselfish and generous act to share what we've discussed today. And I'm truly honored to have been your guest and to be able to share my experiences and my, what I'm up to and how we can help other people to be successful like you and I. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'll close it with my usual quote. The biggest challenge in life is staying on your own path without getting distracted by all the others that intersect it. Thank
Wonderful.
you, Jennie.
I love it. All right, my friend. Well, fist bump to you.
Fist bump. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much. We'll talk again.
All right, Jennie.
All right. Have a great night.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.